What if you could make money while you sleep? Not someday, not after decades of sacrifice, but starting now. Imagine waking up in the morning, reaching for your phone, and seeing money deposited into your account. No meetings, no deadlines, no boss waiting for you, just income, flowing silently in the background of your life. This is the dream of passive income, and in the modern world, it has become one of the most powerful promises ever sold to the human mind. The promise of financial freedom, the promise of owning your time, the promise of escaping the invisible cage that most people live in. A life where every dollar is traded for an hour of your existence. A life where your survival depends on your constant activity. Passive income promises something radically different. It promises leverage. It promises freedom. It promises independence. And millions of people have become obsessed with this idea. They watch the videos. They read the books. They follow the strategies. They believe they are only one step away from freedom. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people who chase passive income never achieve it. Not because they are lazy, not because they are unintelligent, not because they lack ambition, but because they believe something that was never true to begin with. They believe passive income is about money, but it's not. Passive income is about psychology. And unless you understand the psychological traps hidden beneath the surface, you may spend years chasing something that continues to move further away. So the real question isn't whether passive income exists. The real question is, why do so many people chase it and still remain exactly where they started? And more importantly, what do the few who succeed understand that everyone else misses? Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And once you understand it, you stop chasing passive income and you start building it in your mind. Before we can understand why passive income feels so powerful, we need to understand where this dream came from. Because for most of human history, passive income didn't exist. For thousands of years, survival depended on direct effort. You worked, or you didn't eat. Farmers worked the land. Builders worked with their hands. Hunters chased their food. And there was only one universal law: no work, no income. Time and survival were permanently connected. Your hours were your income. Your effort was your security. And this system continued for centuries. Even as the world modernized, even as cities rose, even as industries were born, the fundamental rule remained the same. People sold their time to survive. Then, something changed. Not suddenly, but permanently. The industrial age created jobs, but the digital age created leverage. For the first time in history, it became possible to create something once and get paid for it again and again and again. A book written once could sell for decades. A video recorded once could generate income for years. An investment made once could grow silently in the background of your life. This was new. This was revolutionary. This was the birth of passive income. And with it came a new kind of dream. Not just survival, but freedom. Freedom from dependence. Freedom from schedules. Freedom from trading life for money. The internet accelerated this dream. It showed ordinary people achieving extraordinary leverage. People working from laptops. People earning while traveling. People escaping traditional life. And suddenly, passive income stopped being rare and started becoming desirable. But something else happened at the same time. Something far more dangerous. The dream was simplified. The struggle was hidden. The years of invisible effort were erased from the story. And passive income was no longer presented as a result of transformation, but as a shortcut. And this is where the illusion began. Because passive income was never meant to eliminate effort. It was meant to multiply it. The truth is, passive income is not the escape from work. It is the reward for work that most people are unwilling to endure. And this misunderstanding is where most people fail before they even begin.
The first myth, and the most dangerous one of all, is the belief that passive income is easy. It's a beautiful idea: effortless money, effortless freedom, effortless success. And that word, effortless, is what traps people, because passive income is not effortless. It is front-loaded effort with delayed reward. But most people never see that part. They only see the outcome. They see the creator, but not the years of creating. They see the income, but not the identity that had to be built to sustain it. Every passive income stream begins as active struggle. Before the income becomes passive, the effort is anything but passive. It is uncertain, it is uncomfortable, and most importantly, it is invisible. A YouTube channel that generates income today may have required hundreds of videos that nobody watched. An investment portfolio that produces financial freedom may have required years of discipline when the rewards were small and the temptation to quit was overwhelming. A digital product that sells automatically may have required countless failures before anyone trusted its value. But the world rarely shows you that phase, because it doesn't look impressive. It looks like doubt. It looks like frustration. It looks like no progress. And this is where most people stop, because they expected ease, but they encountered resistance. And resistance creates psychological friction. Your brain begins to question you. It whispers, "This isn't working. This is taking too long. Maybe this isn't for you." Not because you are incapable, but because your brain is designed to protect you from uncertainty. The human mind prefers predictable pain over unpredictable reward. A stable job feels safer than an unstable possibility, even if that possibility leads to freedom. This is why passive income is rare, not because opportunity is rare, but because endurance is rare. Passive income does not reward speed. It rewards psychological stability, the ability to continue when nothing seems to be happening, the ability to build without validation, the ability to trust without evidence. And this is the paradox most people never understand. Passive income is not easy, but it becomes easier for the person you become in the process. Because somewhere along the journey, you stop chasing fast results, and you start building slow certainty. You stop seeking motivation, and you start relying on identity. You stop asking, "When will this pay me?" And you start asking, "Who am I becoming while I build this?" Because that is the real transformation. Passive income is not built by people who want easy money. It is built by people who are willing to become someone different, someone patient, someone disciplined, someone psychologically independent from immediate reward. And once that identity is formed, passive income stops being impossible and starts becoming inevitable. There is a phase that nobody prepares you for, a phase that doesn't appear in success stories, a phase that is never celebrated, a phase that quietly destroys most passive income dreams before they are ever born. This phase is called the silent phase. The silent phase is the period where you are working, but nothing appears to be happening. No income, no recognition, no external proof that your effort matters, only action and uncertainty. This is where reality begins to test you, because in the silent phase, your external results do not reflect your internal growth. You are improving, you are learning, you are adapting, but the world gives you no feedback, and the human brain struggles in environments without feedback. We are wired to respond to signals, reward, validation, progress, but the silent phase offers none of these. It offers only one question: can you continue without evidence? This is where most people stop, not because they failed, but because they cannot tolerate the emotional weight of not knowing if it will work, not knowing if it will pay off, not knowing if the effort will ever return. And uncertainty is psychologically expensive. It creates doubt, it creates fear, it creates internal resistance. You begin to compare yourself to others who seem to be moving faster, others who seem to be succeeding easier,
others who seem to have found the shortcut you missed. But what you don't see is that every passive income stream, every successful creator, every financially free individual has survived this exact phase. The phase where nothing moves, except you. Because the silent phase is not designed to test your skill. It is designed to test your identity. It asks a deeper question. Will you continue, even when nobody believes in you? Even when the results don't validate you? Even when your old identity tries to pull you back into safety? This is the phase where most people return to what feels predictable, to what feels secure, to what feels socially acceptable. They abandon the unknown for the familiar. But the few who continue begin to experience something different. Not externally, but internally. They become calmer, more stable, less dependent on immediate reward. They stop needing constant proof and start building quiet certainty, because somewhere in the silence, they realize something powerful. Passive income was never just a financial process. It was a psychological separation, a separation between those who need immediate reward to continue and those who do not. And once you cross that line, once you become someone who can continue in silence, you are no longer building only income. You are building leverage. You are building independence. You are building a version of yourself that most people never become. And that is why the silent phase exists, not to stop you, but to reveal you. Because passive income does not belong to the fastest. It belongs to the ones who remain when nothing seems to be happening.
The second myth is quieter, but far more destructive. It's the belief that passive income requires little skill, that once you find the right method, the right platform, the right strategy, money will begin to flow automatically, as if income were a mechanical process, as if success were simply a formula. But this belief hides a dangerous misunderstanding, because passive income is not built on methods. It is built on skills, and skills take time to earn. Behind every passive income stream is a set of invisible abilities. The ability to see opportunities that others ignore. The ability to create value that others cannot replicate. The ability to persist when others lose emotional stability. These are not tactics. These are skills. And skills transform the way you interact with reality. Because passive income does not come from doing what is easy. It comes from becoming someone capable of doing what is difficult. This is why two people can have access to the exact same opportunity and produce completely different outcomes. One sees confusion. The other sees leverage. One sees risk. The other sees potential. One hesitates, the other builds. The difference is not the opportunity. The difference is the person. Passive income rewards perception. It rewards creativity. It rewards emotional discipline. Because in the absence of supervision, in the absence of structure, in the absence of immediate consequence, only skill remains. There is no boss to correct you, no salary to stabilize you, no external system to carry you forward. You become the system. And this is where most people feel uncomfortable, because developing skills requires confronting your limitations. It requires producing work that is imperfect, work that may be ignored, work that may fail. And failure is psychologically threatening, not because it destroys your income, but because it challenges your identity. It forces you to see yourself as someone who is still becoming. But this is where the transformation begins, because every skill you develop increases your independence. Every lesson you learn reduces your dependence on luck. Every improvement you make expands your leverage, until one day, what once felt difficult becomes natural. What once required effort becomes automatic, and what once felt impossible becomes your baseline. This is the hidden truth. Passive income feels passive only after skill has made it predictable. To the outside world, it looks effortless, but internally, it is the result of years of psychological adaptation, years of learning,
Years of adjusting, years of becoming. Passive income is not a shortcut. It is a skill-based transformation. And those who commit to developing skill are no longer chasing income. They are building capability. And capability is what makes income inevitable.
There is a psychological divide that determines who will eventually build passive income and who will spend their entire life chasing it. It is not intelligence. It is not education. It is not luck. It is identity. Specifically, the difference between consumers and builders. Consumers and builders live in the same world. They use the same platforms. They have access to the same tools. They see the same opportunities. But they interact with reality in completely different ways. Consumers are trained to receive. Builders are trained to create. Consumers scroll. Builders publish. Consumers watch. Builders produce. Consumers wait for something valuable to appear. Builders become the source of value. This difference seems small, but psychologically, it changes everything. Because consumption feels safe. It requires no risk, no rejection, no exposure. You can consume endlessly without ever confronting your limitations. And modern systems are designed to keep you there. Every notification, every video, every recommendation is optimized to capture your attention, to keep you watching, to keep you consuming. Because consumers generate profit for builders. But builders live differently. Builders accept visibility. Builders accept uncertainty. Builders accept imperfection. They are willing to create something before they feel ready, before they feel confident, before they feel certain it will succeed. And this creates psychological discomfort, because building exposes you. It exposes your current skill level. It exposes your doubts. It exposes the gap between who you are and who you want to become. And most people avoid this gap, not consciously, but emotionally, because the brain interprets exposure as danger. It prefers anonymity. It prefers safety. It prefers consumption. But passive income does not come from consumption. It comes from creation. Passive income is the delayed reward for building something that continues to exist after you stop working on it. A video, a system, an investment, an asset, something that works even when you don't. And every builder begins as a consumer. No one starts as a creator. The difference is the decision to transition. The decision to stop only observing and start participating. The decision to stop waiting and start building. At first, the results are small, sometimes invisible, sometimes discouraging. But something begins to change internally. You stop seeing the world only as entertainment and start seeing it as opportunity. You stop asking, "What can I watch?" and start asking, "What can I create?" And in that moment, your psychology begins to shift. Because passive income does not begin with money. It begins with identity, the identity of a builder. And once you become a builder, you are no longer dependent on the systems you once consumed. You become someone who builds systems. And that changes everything. The third myth is the most seductive of all. It is the belief that passive income automatically creates freedom. This is the promise that attracts millions. The vision of waking up with no obligations, no pressure, no dependence, no limits, just freedom. But freedom is more complex than people imagine. Because what passive income really removes is structure. And structure is what most people have depended on their entire lives. A job tells you where to be, when to wake up, what to do, who to listen to. It creates boundaries. It creates certainty. It creates direction. Passive income removes those boundaries. And suddenly, no one is telling you what to do. No one is controlling your time. No one is defining your path. And for many people, this creates something unexpected. Not relief,
but anxiety. Because when external control disappears, internal control becomes necessary, and not everyone is prepared for that. This is the paradox of freedom. Freedom does not guarantee clarity. Freedom does not guarantee purpose. Freedom does not guarantee fulfillment. Freedom only gives you space, and space amplifies who you already are. If you lack discipline, freedom exposes it. If you lack direction, freedom magnifies it. If you lack identity, freedom confronts it. This is why some people achieve passive income and still feel lost, still feel restless, still feel uncertain. Because passive income solves financial dependence, but it does not solve psychological dependence. It does not automatically give you meaning. It does not automatically give you purpose. It does not automatically tell you who you are. That part, you must build yourself. Because true freedom is not the absence of work. It is the alignment of work with identity. It is the ability to choose your direction and remain stable within it. Passive income gives you the opportunity to experience freedom, but only psychological maturity allows you to sustain it. And this is why passive income is not the final step. It is the beginning of a deeper responsibility. The responsibility of becoming someone capable of living without external control. Someone capable of creating structure from within. Someone capable of directing their own existence. Because in the end, passive income does not free you. It reveals you. By now, you may have realized something deeper. Passive income is not just a financial strategy. It is a psychological transformation. Because the greatest barrier was never the method. It was never the platform. It was never the opportunity. It was identity. Who you believe you are determines what you believe is possible for you. And most people have been conditioned to see themselves as workers, not builders, not creators. Workers, people who trade effort for reward, time for money, certainty for security. This identity feels stable. It feels familiar. It feels safe. But passive income requires a different identity. An identity that does not depend on immediate reward. An identity that does not collapse in the presence of uncertainty. An identity that can act without needing permission. Because when you build passive income, you are stepping outside of the psychological system that most people live inside. A system where effort must be immediately validated to feel meaningful. A system where progress must be visible to feel real. But builders learn to operate differently. They learn to trust invisible progress. They learn to tolerate delayed outcomes. They learn to continue even when their current reality does not yet reflect their future. And this is where the identity shift begins. You stop measuring your life by what you receive and start measuring it by what you create. You stop asking, "What did I earn today?" and start asking, "What did I build today?" Because builders understand something consumers do not. Income is a byproduct. Identity is the foundation. Once your identity changes, your behavior follows. Once your behavior changes, your skills improve. Once your skills improve, your value increases. And once your value increases, income becomes a consequence. Not a struggle, not a chase, a consequence. Passive income is simply the external reflection of an internal evolution. It reflects patience. It reflects discipline. It reflects psychological independence. And this is why passive income cannot be separated from personal transformation. Because the person who builds passive income is not the same person who first desired it. They think differently. They act differently. They see the world differently. They no longer see time as something to spend. They see time as something to invest. They no longer seek comfort. They seek leverage. They no longer wait for opportunity. They build it. And once this identity is formed, passive income stops feeling like a distant dream and starts becoming a natural extension of who you are.
There is one final truth that most people never hear, not because it is hidden, but because it is uncomfortable. Passive income is not passive in the beginning. In the beginning, it demands more from you than anything else. More discipline, more patience, more emotional control, more uncertainty. In fact, in the early stages, passive income feels like the opposite of passive. It consumes your attention. It tests your consistency. It challenges your belief in yourself. You work, and nothing happens. You improve, and nobody notices. You build, and the world remains silent. And this silence breaks most people because they interpret silence as failure. But silence is not failure. Silence is the incubation period. Every passive income stream has a phase where it is invisible, not because it is not growing, but because growth is happening beneath the surface, like roots forming underground. Before anything becomes visible, it must first become stable. Before anything produces income, it must first produce capability. But capability is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It simply develops until one day, something shifts. The same actions that once produced nothing begin producing results. The same effort that once felt pointless begins creating momentum. And suddenly, what was once difficult becomes automatic. What was once fragile becomes stable. What was once active becomes passive. This is the moment people from the outside misunderstand the most, because they only see the ease. They see the income. They see the freedom. But they do not see the years of identity construction that made it possible. Passive income did not begin as passive. It became passive because you did not stop, because you continued when continuation was uncomfortable, because you stayed when leaving would have been easier. And this is the truth nobody tells you. Passive income is not something you find. It is something you grow into. It grows as you grow. It stabilizes as you stabilize. It expands as you expand, until eventually, it no longer feels like something separate from you. It feels like a natural extension of the person you have become. And by the time it arrives, the income is no longer the most important part, because the person you became is worth more than the income itself. Somewhere in the future, there is a version of you whose life looks completely different. They wake up differently. They think differently. They move through the world with a quiet kind of certainty, not because their life became easier, but because they became stronger, more stable, more independent, more aware. They are not controlled by urgency. They are not driven by fear. They are not trapped by the need for immediate reward. They have learned to wait. They have learned to build. They have learned to trust what cannot yet be seen. And everything they have today began in a phase where nothing seemed to be happening. A phase where doubt was louder than progress. A phase where quitting would have been easy. But they didn't quit. They continued, not because they were sure, but because they were willing to become someone new. This is the part most people will never experience, because most people will return to comfort. They will return to distraction. They will return to the familiar life they were taught to accept. But some people choose differently. Some people remain in the uncertainty long enough for certainty to find them. They continue building when nobody is watching. They continue improving when nobody is applauding. They continue evolving when nobody understands. And eventually, their external reality begins to reflect their internal transformation.
This is when passive income appears, not as luck, not as chance, but as alignment. Alignment between who they became and what they built. Because passive income was never the true goal. The true goal was freedom. And freedom was never about money. It was about ownership. Ownership of your time. Ownership of your direction. Ownership of your identity. And the moment you realize this, everything changes. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop chasing illusions. You stop chasing passive income as an escape, and you start building it as an extension of who you are becoming. So the question is no longer, is passive income possible? The question is, are you willing to become the person who builds it? Because that person already exists. They are waiting on the other side of your decision.
And now, you understand something most people never will. Passive income was never just about money. It was about becoming someone capable of building freedom. If this message resonated with you, it means you are already thinking differently. And that is where every transformation begins. This channel exists for those who refuse to remain average, for those who choose growth over comfort, for those who are ready to build the future version of themselves. If you are one of them, make sure you subscribe and join this journey. Because the next videos will challenge the way you think about money, psychology, and human potential. And one idea can change everything. Until then, keep building.